Okay, hello everyone. This is Koji from Celestial Rhythms. So much is going on, and it's tremendous times we're in. We just had that solar annular eclipse yesterday, and it's really, the shells are broken open. Evil will be revealed, transmuted and healed. That's my theme for the day. Exposed first, and that's the tough part, and that is just getting more and more prevalent. It already has happened. Remember the 215 bodies that were unearthed in Kamloops, BC? That's just a start, and that's where the white hats are putting their money. That's how I can see it. Because that will unite people. That will bring us all together. When it's about children, when it's about crimes against humanity, and those jabs included, that will be part of that exposure as... Okay, let's say it that way. We're momentarily in a high. Everybody seems to be in a positive mood. All these people have gotten their jabs, they're now saying, oh yeah, we are now fine, everything is fine, the world is back to normal, we can do whatever. This is a short-lived phase, be aware of that. And also see how they push the V agenda to the edge, promoting even for kids, and I mean it's unreal, it never happens. This is the most amazing propaganda campaign in history. That's what this all is. Started in March 2020 with that powerful full moon in the Neptune axis right in Greenwich, in the ascendant descendant. I said it right there, and then that was back. You can go back to my recordings. Pretty sure I did one on that. So it's all about deception, and they play a very, very smart game. They have been practicing for decades. Think MK Ultra and the Secret Service, who was behind the CIA. Dark stuff. Anyway, it's all coming open. It's all coming into the open. Now, I am starting you off here with the solar eclipse chart for Greenwich inside. And outside is the root chart of this series, which dates back to 1624. That's when the first eclipse of that family happened. So this is always important. We always have to see eclipses in contrast, in context. That's the word I'm looking for. In context to the overall cycle's theme. Now let's just quickly look at this chart, then that first solar eclipse of that cycle, Saros series 147, which started in 1624 and will go all through into the year 3134. That's when the last eclipse of this series will take place. So these are creation spokes. You can say the whole look at creation as a wheel with many spokes, and each eclipse family is one spoke in that wheel. Every 18 years the same spoke comes up to the center, adding a new chapter to evolution. That's basically what it is. It's that slight imbalance of light and dark when the moon comes in front of the sun, and vice versa, when Earth comes in front of the moon, where the balance of light is disturbed. That's the real insight I had at one time. It's that balance is ever so slightly disturbed, opening the crack for some new energies to come in. The code is rewritten. That's what happens each time an eclipse occurs. So let's look at this chart, and we're looking at the global charts today here, because that is really, we're now all in very clearly. I mean, there's people who are supporting this spiritual adventure we're onto ascension. That's really what it is. It's the path to ascension we're on. Very, very powerful times we're in. So look at that. The root of this eclipse family is at 2 degrees 49 Pisces as a fractal for the whole planet, for the whole collective. And where is Jupiter right now? That's not the chart I want to show you. Yeah, yes, it is. That's where Jupiter is. Look, I could swap, then you see it clearly, then you see what I mean. Jupiter. Now inside we have the root chart of that series, outside we have the one of right now. So Jupiter at the 4th house cusp. This is a powerful omen, and Jupiter is in a very powerful place in early Pisces, in hexagram 55. 55, fullness, abundance. It's the brightest moment in the day. It's that of everything there's enough, or not, if not too much. It's an overabundance, and Jupiter is abundance in itself too, so this is a perfect match. So you have to see that it's also the dark energies which are in abundance. Everything is in abundance. Everything moves super fast. That's another aspect of Jupiter, who is the fastest planet, rotating around itself in less than 10 hours, 10 Earth hours. And Jupiter is massive. It's about 12 times the diameter of Earth, where Earth is probably something like 12,000 kilometers. Jupiter is 144,000 kilometers. It's a huge and heavy, massive body spinning fast in space. It's a powerful vortex. That's really what Jupiter creates in space. So, and that vortex is of change, of fast movement, expansion, richness. And Pisces, after all, is one of the two signs Jupiter rules in, so it's in honor. Also in the Tarot, the minor arcana, Jupiter in Pisces has lordship, has a title, Lord of Happiness. All that taken together, so you kind of get the picture. That is the energy I was describing. We are currently experiencing that kind of a relaxation, I should say relaxation, that kind of everything will be now very good and very fine. So, but this will be short-lived, and I will tell you why. Now first, it came to me when I looked at this. Okay, just one sec, and I get the right place here. Okay, so this is the American East Coast, where the eclipse was in process while the sun was rising. So it's it's those devil's horns coming out of the ocean. It's almost like, let's give this dark energy one last big stage event. That's what it looks like in America. It's always like that, where eclipses are visible. That's where they have the greatest impact. Naturally, it has to be that way. It is that's where people have observed it, and then in that way feeding it into the collective, because that's how it goes. Even if one person sees something new, this is fed into the collective. If many do, it's a strong feeder, a strong input. Okay, so yes, the devil's horn rising at sunrise. Not really the best omen. Yeah, and I guess that's exactly where we're at in a bigger way. I'm not wanting to make you afraid. This is a very necessary stage we're getting through. This has been awaited for a long time. It's that final clearing we need for things to get better, for all the craziness to come to a halt, to a screeching halt, a faceplant. That's what it will be, really. Yes, it will be a faceplant for the dark forces. That's my prediction. Terrible faceplant, and with them, naturally, for all the people who believed the wrong agendas. However, it's also a two-world split. So there will be people who just cannot wrap their head around it, and they are likely the ones who are on their way out. Blessed be their souls. That's the gift we are receiving from these souls who have committed to do that, to serve. That's how we have to see it. So it will be the amount of people just falling dead in the streets, if we say it in such strong words. That's what I see coming, starting probably mid-July. So we're speaking here of a longer phase. Yes, I should say that eclipses always are the initiators of longer periods of time. 6 months, they are at the top of the wheel, as I explained, and then another spoke comes up. But still, all the whatever 36 eclipse families which are at work during any given period in time, that's about how many after 18 years they repeat, and every year there's roughly 2 to 3, so anywhere between 36 and 50 eclipse families are active. That's the number of spokes in the wheel, if you want. So anyway, this eclipse will be the major impact of creation for the next 6 months into December 2021. So that's why these eclipse events are so important. Interesting further is that the eclipse, and let's now go back, actually I want to quickly show you here the path, because it's a very unusual path this eclipse had. So here it was visible. This is the red, is where it could be observed as an annular eclipse, and actually interesting that all the eclipses of that family are annular. There's no total solar eclipses in that whole series, which is very rare. So it's a ring of fire event, and a ring of fire again is something which it becomes like a makes me think of the fiery loop in the circus where the tiger has to jump through. That's kind of where we're at. I guess we're getting closer here, so it's a challenge. Anyway, in this red belt, that's where the eclipse was seen in its fullness as an annular eclipse. The moon too far away from Earth, that's what it means to fully cover the sun's disk. As we know, the moon has an elliptical orbit, and so every time total or any of these solar eclipses happen in this whole 1300 year period between the 1600 and whatever 3100, none of these events produces a total solar eclipse. They all are ring of fire eclipses, and that's where this present eclipse was observed in its fullness. So here at sunset and here at sunrise, and then these are the gradual, here you could still see a little snippet of the sun covered, and the more closer we get to the red band, the more was still covered. So that's the devil's horns. They were experienced here in this area. Or if we look at this other map, this shows it also nicely. This is where the sun was at sunset during the eclipse, where the sun was setting with the eclipse. This is kind of where it was at its max, way up in the Arctic at the 80th degree of latitude. And then on this side, this was the experience of sunrise. So that path went right through the Great Lakes area, entering here somewhere in Virginia, Pennsylvania, I guess, and then going up through Canada and Alaska. That is how we experience it in the morning, and on the other side they're experiencing it as when the sun is setting all through here, Siberia and then China. Interesting. China and pretty much ending here in Tibet. Interesting, that connection too of these two areas on our globe. So I'll let you think about that. Let's go now back to the charts. So this is the Greenwich Chart, again inside this eclipse, and you see it's shortly before new moon. That's always something to think about too. Eclipses never really happen exactly dead on when the moon is perfectly aligned with the sun from Earth's perspective, because all these orbits are slightly elliptical. Everything is always a little bit distorted in that sense, which is life in itself. It's that that bandwidth of there's a certain freedom there, flexibility, which life needs. Nothing can be too it would be limiting. I guess you get it. So anyway, the fact that the eclipse was most exact at its max about 7-8 minutes before new moon shows that this cycle is not yet finished. That's what it really means, because only when the moon comes back to the sun dead on perfect, that is when the solely lunar cycle is complete. So in a way, this is a very old moon. You have to think the last time the sun and the moon met, that was something like 30 days prior. And now the moon, that's the idea we have in astrology, the moon is very rich in experiences and comes back and meets the sun again to renew the cycle. So this is a very rich and wise lunar energy, but looking still forward to completion. So this whole next 6 months, in that sense, will be the tail end of a bigger development. That's how I would interpret that. So furthermore, very interesting in this eclipse is the square to Neptune and to Jupiter here in the base chart. This is actually the most exact aspect. This solar, lunar and mercurial energy, and that's really the yeah, I should have mentioned that first. This is probably the most important one to see. That day the eclipse was exact. Mercury was right there too. And I will illustrate that a little bit more, how this was not just that it was the inferior conjunction when Mercury was in the middle of its retrograde period, coming exactly between Sun and Earth, and in that sense restarting what's called a synodic cycle, that mutual dance of Sun, Earth, and Mercury. So a very powerful moment, and on top of that, this happens to be the place, or let me say it that way, this eclipse, this alignment happens to occur in the zodiacal area where Mercury is closest to the Sun. Let me just get that right. Maybe I say it wrong. I sometimes mix these things up. Yeah, perihelion, where Mercury is closest to the Sun. So this is, you see, June 10, 2021, that was 1:05 a.m. That's just hours before the eclipse. 9, not even 10 hours. Interesting, pretty much Jupiter revolution. It's 9 hours 54 minutes, I guess, to be exact. So okay, this is an interesting a little add-on. Anyway, there's so much to say. Let me roll back a little bit, and I will start the story here a little earlier. Let's go back to when Chiron entered hexagram 21, which is biting through an obstacle. It's the moment when the law is kicking in and bringing those who have done wrong to justice and give them the sentence. That is the energy of this hexagram. I said it that right then. This would be the phase of really nailing the bad guys down, bringing them to justice and cleaning up the mess, biting through finally. And you see this, I was definitely speaking about that in one of my YouTubes. I keep forgetting, I've done so many already. You can scroll back to around that time. This was spectacular, as Mercury was exactly in tandem entering this part of the zodiac 9:30, and this again is based on the human design information I quickly show you here. That's on my website, those of you who are still new to my shows here. So this is the overlay of the 64 hexagrams over the I Ching. You can find it here on my old website, the Cosmos within. Then you just click the link, Zodiac and I Ching. Anyway, so here this is the overlay, and so we are talking of Aries, and this is 9 degrees 30 to 15 degrees 7 minutes and 30 seconds. And if you want the fine print, all the degrees where the different hexagrams start and end, you can find it all here. So let's go back here. So That started, yes, April 9. This is this episode with Chiron in hexagram 21, and this will be till the end of October, right? That's what I was writing down here, yeah. So this is that core period, and now let me just point out one little thing here too, which is beautifully visible. This is for Greenwich, for the zero meridian. This is the zenith for the zero meridian, what's vertical above that zero meridian. And this is the same moment for Washington. And you see this? This is happening at such a massed degree that the same moment in Greenwich and in Washington DC often have this relation that one midheaven is at the other's ascendant, which is very rare. Actually, it's very unusual to say. So what it says is that the global energy of that moment, which this is the focus point, this is always kind of where consciousness is what's the right word here? Is congruent. That's the word I'm looking for. When every energy becomes congruent, it's kind of that plumb line. So that's why the midheaven and midnight axis in every chart, personal or mundane, is very powerful, very important. It's kind of where everything finally is suspended on, one could say. So anyway, this intention, also you could call it, is manifesting in Washington. Beautiful. So Chiron in hexagram 21. Hold that thought now for a minute, because just 6 days prior to this eclipse of June 10, in heliocentric astrology, Chiron entered this degree now on top. And the heliocentric is always the energetic underlay. That's the frequency the sun emits, is charged with that chironic fractal, if you want. That's how you could see it, because of all the photons and neutrinos, which are constantly coming from the sun. They carry information, they're carriers, they have quantum coding, and that's really the food which life thrives on, is solar energy in all forms, warmth, radiation, and the whole spectrum. And all these radiations carry a signature, particular signature, which changes with the sun being surrounded by the geometry of the different planets. And as this geometry always moves a little bit, every moment carries a different fractal signature. So anyway, this is now again the Greenwich chart, and this is the heliocentric chart for that moment when Chiron entered hexagram 21, that core phase of taking care, nailing them down, bring them to justice. What stands out in this chart is certainly, first of all, here Chiron in this moment, again in Greenwich, right at the descendant, in conjunction with the moon, after all. Because, yes, you can't see that really here. I have to go and change this into geocentric, so I will do that in 1 second. However, before we do that, I also want to point out Huya, exactly aligned with planet Earth here. Huya is coming to terms with the past, coming to terms with what has gone wrong. It's looking back, taking account, going through a therapy, going through an upgrade, seeing things in a new light. And remember also, this is the American chart's ascendant, 13 degrees Sag. The sun was at 14 degrees Gemini at the descendant. There's so many interrelations, and I keep promoting the American chart, and I always want to say this at the same time. It's not just about the American nation. This has become way more bigger. This foundation chart, the Independence Day, July 4, 1776, is a reboot for humanity. That's how you should see it. And America was just the geographical location where this experiment was to be successful. Yes, it took quite a bit of detours and quite a learning curve, but for a nation 244 years is nothing. This is just the beginning. So we are just coming out of this childhood phase into maturity as a nation, and again, this is way bigger than just America. This has become a global movement by now. That's why the American chart is so important. And additionally, as you know, the American nation's sun is 13 degrees Cancer. So yeah, there's so much going on here. Also here, Vesta right at the ascendant. Very strong commitment to truth, to a higher spiritual order, a commitment to complete one's job, as difficult as it might be. It is that energy of the oath. That's what I see in Vesta a lot. Vesta is one of the 4 major asteroids dating back or originating from Marduk. So in a way bigger historical sense, the asteroids, which are the remains of that blown up planet, they are helping us to come to terms and to kind of repay for what has gone wrong. Asteroids are that ligament, that bond between personal and collective. They make the bridge, and it is, I guess, in many ways we could say it's compassion, it's the heart, it's that deep need to connect these two worlds together and bring them into oneness. And that's what the asteroids, which are all feminine, female on energies, they're helping us to achieve this. That's why asteroids are so important in astrology. It's the bridge, it's literally the bridge. So Chiron in a way is also an asteroid. Now let's go back to the mundane, not the mundane, geocentric chart, 2938 it was. Let's see, that's this one. So let's go back to Geo, and here we go. Okay, here you see, this is now that same moment as it was observed on Earth. And that moment we have a moon descendant Chiron conjunction. You see here a scene from planet Earth. Chiron already has advanced to 12 degrees something. That's kind of the different perspective. That's what it adds. If you either look from the sun or from Earth, things are slightly different. And this indicates that we are now in the core period. June 4th. I mean, it was predicted June would be the month of breakthrough, and certainly already so many things happened. June 4, when the whole Fauci gate became a fact, something which insiders had known for months. That whole pandemic was based on fabrication by someone who holds patents, who has invested money in the treatments. Anyway, the long story short, this is when really things started breaking open in a big way, and then the day after we had that Mars-Pluto opposition, and I'm just quickly showing you here through a few charts in a quick succession, just showing how everything fits together like a hand in a glove. It's unreal. So this moment when Mars and Pluto, Mars here, Pluto here, I think the American nation's Pluto is here at 2732. And look at this Mars exactly at the vertex, Chiron at the 4th house cusp, the moon conjunct Aries. So the lunar nodes right here in the ascendant, descendant, actually with a focus towards the 7th house again. It's all about exposing, showing, meeting, merging. The 7th house is interaction in a very simple way. It's where the new is created, where the two forces come and meet and mate, and in that sense give birth to the new. So the 7th house is so strongly here emphasized in this chart. And Mars Pluto, I mean, a simple way, this is a booster. This has been just opening the circuit, pushing it to a higher level. And one day after, I wrote a little bit about that on my Facebook page. Those of you who are not yet part of our community, if you want to be in the loop, because sometimes I'm not able to do all these recordings. I'm way too busy otherwise. I also have to make a living as everyone else. So just saying, if you want to keep in the loop from day to day, go to Facebook, search for Celestial Rhythms, and come and be part. And you get daily your messages of what's going on. So in Helio, Mars, Jupiter, one day later on the 6th of June, just on the heels of this Mars-Pluto opposition geocentrically. This is as seen from Earth. And you see this was June 5, 7:46 p.m., June 6, 8, 14:15 p.m. So 24 hours later, Mars exactly opposing Jupiter here, heliocentrically. And again with the Sun in the descendant axis here, approaching Bienor, which actually is one of the centaurs which is strongly linked into this eclipse energy, as we will see as when we go back to it. Bienor, the free spirit, the strong man who's standing in her power and expressing sovereignty and freedom. What better could we wish for? Then yet another interesting shift occurred. As I already said, that was Mercury's perihelion. Then just 9 hours prior to the eclipse, Mercury at the closest point in its orbit with the Sun. This is again heliocentric. This is a reboot moment for Mercury. And Mercury here heliocentrically connected with Juno. That's very, very promising. Juno is teamwork, standing together, understanding that only many pillars are needed to hold a big roof. It's if we team up, work together, respect one another, and allow everyone to be in the right place where they most enjoy being part of the show. But it's a deep commitment to that spirit of team. Mercury, yes, even really making this a known fact in big ways. I guess that's really what the side effect of the awakening is, that we are merging, we are becoming one. It's that merging of all timelines, as I have posted about before, that 2012 paradox, which we are still approaching. Yes, so there's something big going on here, and we're still not fully there, but it's showing up signs here and there. We're getting closer, as this eclipse certainly shows. So this is another interesting coincidence, whatever you want to call it. Synchronicity, I guess, is the better word. So this is the secondary progress chart for the American nation for that moment. And you see there is this 8 degrees 58 Virgo rising, and what we see here in this chart for Greenwich, the global chart of that solar eclipse in that sense has that same degree rising. So again, the kind of the notion is here that the American nation is presently the best expression for this eclipse energy, which I guess has come out already in multiple levels through this presentation. So I want to point out a few more things here. Orcus by progression at 1047, the American nation's secondary progress chart. Orcus is at 9 degrees 09 in the birth chart, so of July 4th, 1776. So we are just approaching this degree, and then here, interestingly enough, we have Nessus. I have spoken about that many times too. Nessus is the deep state, is getting fully exposed, fully visible, and naturally, if something becomes visible, we can feel it even more. So it's hurting. It's very hurting. I mean, that whole exposure of pulling the curtains open, making things visible, allowing them to get in power, at least to that degree that everybody can see it happening. So, I mean, I had seen all these alignments last year. I have kind of had a different perspective. I thought this would be more kind of already the contained exposure, but it was kind of an alarming sign, this Nessus there and the progress descendant. So it's no surprise that, yes, we first have to go really through the deep mud, swamp, whatever you call it, before we get a handle of it and hopefully out of it soon, which certainly not will happen. Yes, not hopefully, it happens. It will happen. I mean, every sign speaks for it. It's just a temporary phase of facing difficulties, and this is still kind of peaking. See, 858, 900 is the natal Nessus. So yeah, I'm expecting, and then Nessus will be fully in the 6th house after that, and that is probably around the time then when we see first strong signs of people suffering from that jab. And yes, so it will really open the floodgates probably around mid-July, as I say. And by the end of August, I said that before, and I have confirmation, by latest September we should be in a better place. Christmas for sure. Take my word for it. Okay, this is again the root chart. Let's just move on here a little faster so it doesn't get too long here. We have looked at this one already, the overlay of the two charts. You can at any time stop the video and have a closer look at these charts and get your own opinions. There's so much more going on in these charts than I have time here speaking about. I'm just really pointing out the most powerful alignments. Okay, so this is now the new moon chart. I found that interesting. Yes, as you see, this is roughly what is it? Let's just go back. 42 is the eclipse maximum, and 52. So that's 10 minutes between. So you see, in these 10 minutes, the axis shift, and this is now really the reboot of the sun and moon cycle. And Orcus here again, Orcus is about alchemy, transformation, and it is this opposition in the American chart, which I've pointed out multiple times, of Orcus exactly in that same degrees in 76, Nessus exactly in the same degrees at, as you see, Nessus is now at 15 and actually turning retrograde just in a few days. Everything, it's a very, very dense kind of corridor of events we are experiencing between roughly the 4th and the 14th of June. It's like somebody stepping on the accelerator, and the car moves ever faster. It gets to a point, and that high speed will be reached by the 14th, 15th of June. So the new moon, yes, featuring Orcus, and Orcus again is in perfect T-square with the nodes. I pointed that out too a few weeks ago. Orcus here highlighted by the nodes. This shows that this is a highly alchemical process we are in, of transformation. For revelation first, transformation, healing coming on its heels. Then let's keep going here. Okay, this was then the next event, just a few hours later again. See, the moon meanwhile has departed from the sun about 4 hours after the eclipse was at its maximum. Saturn changes hexagrams. This is big. When big planets change their setting within the 64 hexagrams, 19 is greatness. 19 is approach. It is that energy of spring pushing in a way. That's hexagram 19, and the American nations progressed. Moon is also in that hexagram now since a few weeks. So Saturn in greatness, well, I guess Saturn is elevated, put into a high position. Saturn, the one who is bringing the law and order and karma catching up, I guess that's in a few words. And then okay, this is then the next one. We have that square with Uranus and Saturn, which is a yearly theme. These two planets have a 90-degree aspect pretty much through the whole year, and it's that clash of old and new, that two world split, or you want to call it, the grinding of the two systems against each other. And well, to say it in a nutshell, on this level scene, Uranus is definitely having the edge here, as it's the ruler of where Saturn is right now. Can I say it? The word is missing here. The dispositor, right? That's the word I'm looking for. And okay, then this is the next one. Ceres and Uranus have a close conjunction, and this is again just hours later. Here we are on the 11th, that is when these two are exact. So I have lined it up in sequence here, so there's a few more quite powerful changes taking place in the wake of this eclipse. And then yes, this is really the big one, I think, probably the most. Well, they're all big. Chiron in 21 now, Pluto in 61 inner truth. Pluto had been in that hexagram for the major part of the last 5 years. 61 is inner truth, as I say. It is zooming in on the essence. It's that center part of Capricorn. Let me just quickly go back here to this picture, and that would be here. That is 61, starting at 2045 in Capricorn to 26, 22, 30. And Pluto has just come back out of this difficult phase here, which is hexagram 60, which is restrained. So in a way, Pluto was restrained to act for the last 5-6 months, and is now coming back to tally up its 5-year build up of evidence, of truth finding. And this is a window which will last. Let me just quickly go here to give you a bit of a better understanding of that. So this is going on for the better part of the next year, till Pluto will be re-entering and finally getting into 60. So it is a bigger chapter here. Jupiter is finishing, and I like that 0 degrees Aries ascendant of that moment, this energy shift. It really shows. Now we're talking. Now we're getting things rebooted, restarted, reset. 0 Cancer, that was the eclipse 1 year ago, which still is highly active. And up here, yes, we have Australia, the one who does not shy away from rolling back its sleeves and getting the hard work done. Then, yes, this is the synodic Mercury cycle. That's now when Mercury is exactly on the same degree as the Sun from Earth's perspective. Again, a few hours later, again an Aries ascendant here globally. Again, I could say so many more things to that. In that merging moon, still in Gemini, here opposing the galactic center. very powerful point, the galactic center here at 2709 in Sagittarius. The moon linked with the galactic center is the empowerment of the people, I would call it. And then, yes, we have a few more cherries here on top of that big cake. So that is today, finally, Ceres caught up with Uranus, which is about a 5-year cycle. That's how long it takes Ceres to circle once around one of the major asteroids again, of the Earth goddess in that sense, which is motherly love, unconditional love, but also it's the toughness a mother has to have sometimes, and it is the deep emotional bond and the grief which at time is coming up. You might know that Demetra's daughter Persephone, Demetra is the same character as Ceres. Demetra's daughter Persephone was abducted by Pluto, and that brought Ceres into deep suffering. So Ceres can go through quite some extreme emotional phases, and it's also that square still from Saturn here. So it's a recreation, but it's also coming to terms with things. That's what it feels here. And then last but not least, you see Mars here, 2942. So yes, last but not least, that is also happening today. Mars entering Leo. That's the final activator. So Mars will be in Leo for the next few weeks. Expect things to get heated, to get forceful and dominant and demanding to be heard. Leo is a stage. Leo has a loud voice. Leo demands attention. And I want to finish this on the note that my next update will focus upon this. By mid-July, Mars will oppose Saturn. That is the next big station, and that will be kind of when I guess the phase plant is about to be expected from then on forward. So enjoy the quiet, the preparation, still for every piece of that puzzle to be put in the right place. Make the connections, use that Gemini energy to reach out to others and to build a strong network which will prevail through the coming unrests. Thank you for joining and listening. Love you all, and like it or leave it. And subscribe. Okay, bye-bye.